All right, let's dive into some cutting-edge camera tech.
Sounds good.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Panasonic LUMIX DC-S1RII.
The one everyone's been talking about.
It is, based on reviews from LensClear.
A great website.
Yeah, run by Leo Liang. He's a really insightful photographer, does a lot of good gear reviews.
Yeah, his insights are spot on.
So we're going to be talking about the S1RII.
All right.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out.
Should be interesting.
Definitely.
Panasonic is really trying to hit that sweet spot for both photographers and videographers with this one.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a challenge,
Yeah.
to find that balance, but they've packed in some pretty interesting features to try and achieve it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what they've done.
Definitely.
So let's start with the heart of the camera, the sensor.
Okay.
So the S1RII boasts a 44 megapixel
Wow.
back-illuminated sensor.
That's a lot of megapixels.
It is. Yeah, you're going to get incredible detail, perfect for, people who love to print large or crop heavily in post.
Yeah, resolution's great, but it's not the fastest on the market,
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, its readout speed is on par with some of the older models, the lower resolution models. So you gain detail, but might lose a bit of speed.
Yeah.
Got to think carefully if you shoot, fast action or something like that.
Right, so it's more about image quality than pure speed in this case.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about locking onto those subjects?
Autofocus.
Yeah, autofocus, everyone wants those tack-sharp images.
Of course, of course.
So talk to me about the autofocus system.
So they've really leveled up their game with this second generation image plane phase difference AF.
Okay.
It's supposed to be super quick and accurate, plus they've added better subject recognition. It can track birds in flight. And all that.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so sounds great on paper, right?
It does.
But, I know you've seen the reviews.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of the early reviews I've seen mention some hiccups.
Yeah, there have been some reports about the autofocus being a bit inconsistent.
Really?
Especially in, tricky lighting conditions. It seems like they're relying more on software and algorithms rather than a dedicated AI chip, which we're seeing more and more in the other high-end cameras out there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it sounds like firmware updates could be key here.
Yeah, they think so, potentially.
Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about color.
All right.
The S1RII is introducing a new color mode called Cinelike A2.
I've heard about that.
It sits between the existing D2 and V2 profiles.
Right.
And it's supposed to offer like a softer, more cinematic look.
Oh, interesting.
So is this a game changer for people who really want that specific look right out of the camera?
It could be. It could be. If you want that cinematic feel without, a ton of editing later.
Right.
I think it's a happy medium between their other profiles.
Yeah.
And what's cool is it works for photos and videos.
Oh, wow.
So, that's...
Versatility.
Exactly. Versatility is the name of the game.
And what about the real-time LUT function?
Ooh, that's cool.
That sounds a little technical.
Yeah, it is a bit technical.
We'll break it down for us for the everyday user.
So essentially LUTs, or lookup tables, are like filters for your photos and videos, right?
Okay.
The S1RII lets you load up to 39 different LUTs.
Wow.
And you can even combine 2 of them at different intensities.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, that means you can basically apply your desired look to the image as you're shooting.
Right.
Saves you a ton of time in post.
I like that.
Yeah.
Saves time, saves effort.
Exactly.
Okay, I can hear all the videographers out there getting excited right now.
Yeah, I bet.
We need to talk about the video capabilities because this camera looks like a powerhouse.
It does. It does.
We're talking resolutions near UHD 8K, DCI 8K, and even an 8.1K option with a 1.89:1 aspect ratio.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not just about the resolution, though, right?
Right.
It's all the features that are packed in. They've got professional video features like shutter angle control,
Right.
a waveform monitor to check exposure, and lots more. Plus, it supports 4-channel audio recording and 32-bit float audio with an optional XLR2 accessory.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can really, step up your video game with this one.
Yeah, so ideal for serious video work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And let's talk about open gate shooting, because I think this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
You can shoot at full sensor resolution for 6.4K video, and they're promising even higher resolution open gate with a future firmware update.
That's a lot of pixels.
It is.
Lots of data.
It is.
So you've got some options for recording.
Okay.
You can choose ProRes 422 or even ProRes RAW.
Oh, nice.
And you can record to a CF Express Type B card or an external SSD if you need the space.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. Rolling shutter.
The dreaded rolling shutter.
Yeah, it's a common issue in video, especially with these high-resolution cameras.
It is.
So how bad is it on the S1RII?
You know, it's definitely something to be aware of, especially if you're shooting a lot of fast-moving action.
Right.
While the rolling shutter is present, it's better than some of Sony's offerings.
Okay.
But if we're comparing it to cameras with stacked sensors, like the Canon EOS R5 II,
Yeah.
the Nikon Z8, it does fall behind. You know, it's that classic trade-off. Amazing resolution, great video features, but you might see that that jello effect
Yeah.
in certain situations.
Okay, so it's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind.
Right, exactly.
Now, design-wise, the S1RII seems to have taken some inspiration from the S5 II series.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So is it smaller and lighter than the original S1 series?
Yes,
Wow.
it is. They've definitely streamlined the design. They've also added a built-in fan and a cooling exhaust, which is...
That's important.
It is, especially for long shoots.
Yeah.
And especially for video.
Yeah, you don't want your camera overheating.
Nobody wants that.
Right in the middle of something important.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and what about button layout and overall ergonomics? Any notable changes there?
Yeah, they've made some smart improvements to the grip, you know.
What do you
It's
mean?
deeper now, more comfortable to hold, especially for those with larger hands.
Yeah.
Or during long shooting sessions.
Us.
They've got fewer function buttons this time around and a new dedicated record button,
Oh, that's nice.
which is very convenient.
Yeah.
And maybe taking some inspiration from Sony, they added a dedicated switch for stills, video, and S&Q modes.
Okay.
You know, small touch, but it makes switching between modes much faster.
That's nice. Yeah, little things like that
think
make
that-
a big difference.
Sure, for sure.
And they've also, it looks like they've got a movable rear monitor like the Sony A7RV. So
Oh, yeah.
that's cool.
It offers some, more versatility in terms of viewing angles.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
So they really thought about the user experience with these design updates. Yeah, seems like they did.
Now, battery life.
Ah, yes, the eternal question.
Always a concern for photographers.
It is.
The S1RII uses the same DMW BLK22 battery as the S5.
Right.
How does that affect shooting time?
Unfortunately, the battery life is, pretty average.
Okay.
Nothing spectacular. However, they have introduced a new battery grip, the DMW BG2.
Oh,
And this is interesting.
okay.
It's got hot swapping functionality.
Interesting.
So, you can use both batteries, one in the grip and one in the camera
Ah.
simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
And you can swap them out without interrupting recording.
That's nice.
So that's...
Game changer.
It is a game changer, especially for those long shoots.
Especially for video.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so time for the bottom line.
Hit me with it.
How much will this all cost?
So the expected price for the S1RII is around $3,300,
Okay.
which is pretty competitive, especially given all the features.
Yeah, so it sounds like it offers a good value for the money.
Yeah, I think so, definitely.
But is there a point where you think the value proposition starts to diminish?
I think so.
Yeah.
If the price goes much higher than $3,300,
Right.
then it starts to become less attractive compared to some of the rivals out there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a moment to recap what we know about the S1RII so far.
All right.
So it's packing a new sensor, 44 megapixels, phenomenal detail, but it's not the fastest, so
Keep that in mind.
keep that in mind, yeah.
Right.
They've improved the autofocus system, but it sounds like there are still some kinks to be worked out, maybe with future updates.
Absolutely. So
And on the video side, it's a beast.
it is.
High resolution, pro features, codec options,
They're incredible.
but it does have some rolling shutter to consider.
Right.
Don't forget about those design enhancements too.
Oh, yeah.
The improved grip, the movable monitor, and the new battery grip with hot swapping.
All adds up to a pretty compelling package.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think?
I'm impressed. Yeah, I think before we jump into part 2 of our deep dive, I want to know what feature you're most excited about so far.
That's a tough one.
We'll be right back with more after a quick word from our sponsor.
Welcome back. And we're digging deeper into the Panasonic S1RII. And there's a feature that kind of caught my eye. It's called dual conversion gain.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit technical.
It does?
Can you kind of break it down for us?
Yeah, so basically,
Explain why it matters.
so it's pretty cool. Imagine you're shooting in a really dimly lit environment,
Okay.
like a concert or something.
Right.
So dual conversion gain basically gives the camera two base ISOs, allowing it to kind of switch gears and capture more light,
Oh, interesting.
resulting in cleaner images with, less digital noise.
I see.
So the S1RII lets you choose between these modes manually,
Okay.
which gives you more control, especially when, the lighting gets tough.
So it's like a secret weapon for low-light photography?
Kinda, yeah, you could say that. Now, we talked about those impressive video specs earlier,
We did.
but how does the autofocus actually perform when you're shooting video?
That's where things get a little tricky. The S1RII's autofocus, while it's generally capable,
Yeah.
it's not as consistent for video as it is for stills. And it can struggle to keep up with those fast-moving subjects.
Right.
Remember how we mentioned the lack of a dedicated AI chip
I do, yeah.
that might be contributing to this inconsistency?
So if you're shooting, I don't know, like a wedding or
Yeah.
a documentary where you're relying heavily on the autofocus
Right.
for video,
Yeah.
you might want to, consider other options or be prepared to kind of adjust your shooting style.
Exactly.
Oh, good to know.
Another feature that caught my attention is the inclusion of false color.
Oh, yeah.
Might sound unfamiliar,
It does.
but it's a really powerful tool
Yeah.
for getting your exposure just right.
Interesting.
Essentially, it helps you visualize potential overexposed or underexposed areas in your image.
So it guides you to the proper exposure.
Yeah, it kind of like guides you towards that perfect exposure.
So it's like having an exposure assistant built right into the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really useful for, high contrast scenes.
Absolutely.
Where, getting that exposure just right can be tricky.
It can be really tricky, yeah.
Okay, now let's move on to something a little more tangible. The S1RII's design.
Right.
Panasonic has made some, notable ergonomic changes.
They have.
What stands out to you?
I mean, the new movable rear monitor is pretty cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of the one on the Sony A7RV.
Yeah, very similar.
Gives you a lot more flexibility when framing your shots.
Absolutely.
Especially at those,
Awkward angles.
awkward high or low angles.
Exactly, yeah.
And don't forget about the improved grip.
Oh, yeah, can't forget about that.
It's much deeper now.
It is.
So it's much more comfortable to hold, especially for those with, larger hands.
Yeah, or for those, long shooting sessions.
Yeah, definitely.
That makes a difference.
And the built-in fan for cooling, that's also a major plus.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially for video.
Especially for video, yeah.
Overheating can be a real concern
Mm.
with these high-resolution cameras.
Yeah, it gets hot in there.
So having that active cooling system,
Yeah,
that should provide peace of mind.
definitely.
Speaking of peace of mind, let's revisit the price.
Right.
Around $3,300.
Yeah.
The S1RI seems to hit a sweet spot, in terms of features and affordability.
Right.
But how does it compare to its main competitors in terms of value?
That's a good question.
Well, it's definitely more affordable than something like the Canon EO R5 II,
Right.
which comes with a higher price tag, around $4,300.
Quite a bit more.
But the Canon, it does have a stacked sensor for faster readout and better rolling shutter performance.
Right, that's the trade-off.
Yeah.
And then there's the Sony A7RV,
Yeah,
which boasts an even higher resolution,
it does.
61 megapixels,
A lot of megapixels.
but it also comes at a premium,
yeah, you pay for those pixels.
around $3,900.
Yeah,
So the S1RII kind of sits comfortably in the middle,
it does.
offering a good balance between features and price.
Yeah, I think so.
Doesn't necessarily dominate in any one area,
Right.
but it's a well-rounded package
It is.
for those who want, both photo and video capabilities.
For sure.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Who do you think this camera is really for?
That's, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I think the S1RII is a versatile camera that
Yeah.
could appeal to a wide range of users.
Okay.
If you need that high resolution
Right.
and you shoot both stills and video,
Yeah.
I think it's definitely worth considering.
So, landscape photographers,
Yeah.
portrait photographers,
Mhm.
event photographers.
Right. Even some indie filmmakers
For sure.
could find this to be a really great tool.
Absolutely.
However, if you're, a sports or wildlife photographer
Right.
who needs, really blazing fast autofocus and burst rates.
Super high speed.
And yeah, there might be better options out there
I think
that
so.
prioritize speed over resolution.
Exactly.
So, it all comes down to choosing the right tool for the job.
Right.
And for many, the S1RII could be that perfect fit.
I think so, for sure.
Now, while the S1RII offers a lot right out of the box,
Oh, yeah.
what potential do you see for future improvements? Maybe through firmware updates.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's room for improvement
Okay.
in the autofocus department.
Okay.
If Panasonic can address those inconsistencies,
Right.
especially for video, that would make it even more attractive.
Yeah, I agree.
To those hybrid shooters out there.
Especially for, the price point.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe they can also work on mitigating that roll and shutter effect.
Yeah, maybe. Although, I mean,
It's not a deal breaker for everyone.
not for everyone, but it would be nice
Right.
if they could improve it a little bit.
Even with those minor areas for improvement, the S1RI has a lot to offer.
It does.
Now, before we move on to part 3,
Right.
I want you to consider this.
Okay.
Knowing what you know now, how do you think the S1RII stacks up against the competition?
That's a good question to think about.
We'll be back to wrap it all up
Yep.
after a short message. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Panasonic LUMIX DC-S1RII.
The moment of truth?
It is, yeah, we've explored all the tech specs,
Wait,
the features, compared it to the competition.
lots to consider.
Now it's decision time.
Yeah, I guess so.
So,
What do we think?
there's no one-size-fits-all answer
Definitely not
in the world of cameras, but
If-
we can offer some guidance
right.
based on what we've learned.
Exactly. If image quality is your top priority,
Yeah.
that 44 megapixel sensor on the S1RII,
Yeah.
pretty hard to beat.
It is, and if you're someone who,
Yeah.
dabbles in both stills and video,
Right.
I mean, those hybrid capabilities are really appealing.
Very appealing.
Shooting high-resolution video with pro-level features and codecs all in one package.
Yeah, it's a powerful proposition.
It is, but remember
Of course.
those caveats.
Always caveat.
We discussed the autofocus performance,
Yeah.
while good overall,
Right.
isn't perfect.
Especially for video.
Right, and there's that rolling shutter effect to think about.
It's always there lurking.
Right, so those are definitely factors to weigh depending on,
Your shooting style.
yeah, what you plan to capture.
And, of course, the price.
Right.
$3,300 is competitive, but it's still...
It's an investment.
It is a significant one.
So where do we land on the S1RII? I think it's a very capable camera.
Definitely.
Versatile. Checks a lot of boxes.
It does.
It's great for photographers who prioritize image quality and want that option to shoot,
High quality video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's a well-rounded camera.
It is.
Yeah.
There are quirks.
Right.
And ultimately, the decision comes down to you.
Yeah.
What are your needs?
Exactly.
How might those drawbacks affect your work?
And if you're hungry for even more details,
Oh, yeah.
we encourage you to head over to LensClear
Great website.
and check out Leo Liang's review.
He goes really in depth.
He does. He's got sample images, video footage, all that good stuff.
Choosing a camera is a journey.
It is.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
The best camera is the one that lets you tell your story.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So,
That brings our deep dive into the Panasonic LUMIX DC-S1RII to a close.
I guess that's it.
We hope you found this exploration insightful and helpful.
I hope so.
But the conversation doesn't end here.
It doesn't.
We want to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
Head over to our social media channels and tell us what camera tech gets you excited.
What are you looking forward to?
What features are you most excited about for the future?
Yeah, let us know.
We love hearing your thoughts.
We do.
And we want to continue the conversation.
For sure.
And with that, we'll sign off for today.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been fun.
Until next time,
See you later.
keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating.